All right. Hey, welcome back. We are really excited today to have with us Jim and Carroll Wiebe. And you're thinking, well, if you don't know Jim and Carroll Wiebe, you're like, I don't know why you're excited. But they're awesome. And so what we wanted to do with this entire podcast and in this entire thing that we call the Peanut Gallery is to tell stories. And the story we want to talk about today is a story of fostering, of adoption, of marriage. And so we brought them in. You guys have lived this and have been a pretty cool example to a lot of us in the community. And so I want to talk to you guys, tell your story. So first of all, I want to know who you are. Everybody else wants to know who you are. So you guys can fight who starts. But tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, my name's Jim, as Albert said. I've lived in Aylmer all my life. And I work at Format in St. Thomas. Been there 23 years. I'm 42. We have 2 biological children and 2 foster children right now that are kinship placement. Okay.
Yeah. So you're like almost at retirement age. Is that too soon?
A little too soon, yeah.
Sorry.
I would love to retire at 42, but
would that not be nice?
That would be very nice.
I would worry that I'd get bored quick, so I'd need to find a second job, and then at that point, I'm like, what did I really do here?
Yeah. I'd run out of money too quick.
So what's it been like? Just real quick. I'm curious. What has factory life been like during this pandemic?
It actually hasn't changed a lot. I actually, while I was there, it hasn't changed a lot. I'm actually on a leave right now. Okay. Since the lockdown that's happening right now, the kids aren't going to school. So for Carol to be able to work, right. 'Cause she works at the hospital, I'm staying home and work has allowed me to do that. So I'm a stay-at-home dad for now, helping with the kids and their schooling, and it's stressful. I'm almost looking forward to going back to work.
So, Mr. Wiebe, is that what we're doing, Mr. Dad?
I guess, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's very, very cool. Okay, we'll come back to that, but that's awesome. Very neat. Carol, what about you?
So I am also from this area. I grew up here, attended East Elgin, went to school in Hamilton for 7 years, did my undergrad and then medical school there, came back, we got married, and then I finished my residency, and I've been working at the St. Thomas Hospital in the emergency department for 12 years this July.
Wow.
Yes. And I do I work in the chemotherapy clinic there, and try to get involved in the community in different ways too. But right now I'm sort of working, trying to help out at home too, because Jim, like he said, is doing a huge amount of that, and taking some online courses when I can, just because I still like to learn a lot. But that's kind of where what I'm doing.
Okay, so to talk a little bit, why'd you end up being a doctor?
Why did I end up being a doctor?
How'd you get into that? Like, what inspires you? Because that's a lot of school. Like, that was what de-spired me from a lot of those careers. I looked at that, I'm like, 7 years? No.
So I was one of those strange children, I guess. I just always knew that's what I wanted to do. My mom says I never played house. I never did the sort of normal play that she would have expected. I had my dolls lined up in cribs. I had cue cards with prescriptions, and my doctor would give me empty syringes, and I would squirt them with their needles. When I was little.
No, seriously?
I'm dead serious. Maybe that's weird, but that is what I did. And I just always knew that was what I was called to do.
That's very cool. I try not to break everything.
Sorry.
We're on a pretty low budget.
Sorry, I'm gesturing with my hands, and it's gonna.
All right. So what's it been like in the hospital? I know we want to get to the other topics, but everybody will be curious. So what has this experience been like for you?
Oh, it's totally like tear down what you know and relearn everything. And I guess I say that a little bit tongue in cheek because it's not everything, but so many processes and protocols that we've had to relearn. You know, we resuscitate differently. We have different treatment options that are available, or treatment options that we used to use a lot that aren't available. Things are more intentional, more thought out. We're having critical conversations with people sooner. It's been very different. I definitely have to say there's been a level of anxiety across the board that fluctuates from time to time, but a lot of people have become self-described burnt out, I guess. That's not to say there wasn't burnout before. I think this has just ripped the Band-Aid off of a lot of the self-care that was lacking prior to that. But I've been so fortunate. I've felt so well supported through the whole year and a half that we've been doing this, and safe. And I have a great group of colleagues that I find really supportive, or have found very supportive. Jim's been right there the whole time, just picking up the slack when I've been working more, or coming home more tired, or coming home just because the days are full of higher acuity presentations. Jim's just really picked that up.
We're basic people here.
Oh,
we're very basic people here.
That's not
higher acuity. Like I know, sicker. I'm not higher IQ.
Sicker.
I can tell you that.
Sicker.
Okay. Sicker. All right.
Yes, more sick.
That's good. Jim, have you had to learn a lot of this kind of lingo to follow with your wife?
Yes. Yeah.
No, it's pretty fairly standard for him to say that I have to keep our conversation PG because I'm trying to tell him stories from work.
Well, yeah, she wants to tell stories that have happened at the hospital, like over the dinner while we're eating spaghetti, and I'm like, no, this got to be PG.
He's gotten better over the years.
You know what? Okay, so, and this isn't really what we talked about, but I'm curious. When you say you feel well supported, and I think some people listening know people who are nurses or doctors or work in that field, what are some of the things that people did that you found beneficial? And then maybe, Jim, I'll ask you the same thing, kind of like, what has it been like for you? Because sending her, especially at the beginning of this pandemic, we didn't know what this thing was. What's that like as a spouse at home? So, Carol, if you want to start, and then I give Jim a little bit of time to think about that.
I felt well supported, I guess, at work. Both, I had enough PPE, so there was enough like masks, gloves, gowns, etc. We never had it rationed to us. We never had that held back. I felt supported in that I have a very collegial group who was very instrumental in keeping us informed. There was a lot of research and a lot of sharing of resources and a lot of very clear guidelines that we came up with. We did simulations and practice runs of different scenarios that might come up. We had administration helping us out. We had people redeployed to help us out. And we used all of that. Yeah. And we're given a lot of input in how we thought things would be safest for ourselves and our team, because when you're the emergency physician, you're running a team and you're in charge of the team. So that team's safety is your responsibility too. So I felt that we had a lot of autonomy and freedom to make that happen. So I felt supported there. I felt supported there was a lot of gratitude pouring out for the health workers. And so that's always nice to see. That felt good. That's not something you always hear. So that was nice. But I think mostly just mostly at home, because Jim, this is now his second stint at home. He did that at first when the children were home in last school year, and now again. And he's doing laundry, and he's making meals and meal planning, and he's
burnt the chili yesterday.
He did. He burnt the chili yesterday. Yeah. But he made chili, right? Like, and I didn't do anything. Except make chicken burgers after. But like I still got to go out, and I felt almost some days that I had the easier portion, because I went out and I got to have adult conversations, and I got to see other people, and I got to stay abreast of the current events. And Jim was at home, practicing tracing, and I valued that so highly, and I just felt that was maybe probably the most supportive piece of that for me during this whole time.
This is just getting downright mushy. That's
nice. It's true though.
So what's it been like for you, Jim, then? And I'll add then to that, because she's mentioned that a few times, but you staying home. What has that transition been like? So her going to work, you staying at home. How's that been?
It's stressful. I guess I'm getting lots of time with my boys. That's something that I wouldn't have that opportunity. All these months, they'd be in school, I'd be at work. I wouldn't see them for those 8 hours. Now I'm seeing them 24/7, obviously without sleep, minus sleep. You know what I'm talking about. I'm running here on lack of sleep.
How many days has it been, Jim?
When it started, like I was concerned. I was worried about Carol going to the hospital. But the one thing that I've always, I can read Carol pretty good, and if I can see that she's scared, then I know it's something bad. I think her confidence in her team and in her in the hospital and everything, like she never showed that she was terrified to go to work. So that gave me a sense of calm. And I know her coworkers. Like we've gone to Christmas parties. I've met them. They're down to earth people. Like I trust the people she works with. Carol, she's the kind of person, like she keeps a clean house. She doesn't cut corners. So I knew she would be careful. Like I knew she wouldn't be, being lax with her PPE or.
Yeah.
And back to where if she's calm, I don't worry. Just a story. When Michael was born, our 8-year-old son, he wasn't breathing when he came out. There had been some fecal matter in the womb, and he had sucked it. It was in his lungs. He couldn't breathe. And so the nurse grabbed him, and the nurse was super calm. So I was like, okay. But I looked back at Carol. She looked calm. So I'm like, okay, this is normal. Like this happens. And so they jammed the straw down his throat, or this tube. I shouldn't say straw. Tube.
There's some cutbacks at the time.
and I kept looking back at Carol, and she was calm. Okay. If she's a doctor,
Yeah.
And obviously he's 8 years old. He's healthy and alive and kicking. But Carol told me afterwards that she had been terrified. Her son's not breathing. So I'm sure she doesn't show a lot of her fear.
Yeah.
And but that has helped. I don't know.
Awesome. Okay, so let's talk about fostering. You guys have done fostering. You've done kin care. Walk us through a little bit of why you decided to get into this, and then we'll go from there.
Well, even before we were married, Carol has always talked about wanting to adopt, and I was always very, I wouldn't say against it. I was just like, well, if we can have our own children, why would we adopt?
Right.
And but I remember we were still engaged, and we did a mission trip to Africa, and we wanted to bring all the kids with us. And I think that might have that definitely just caused the flame to get bigger with Carol, and probably just made me think anyways. But I still wanted to just try having our own. And then, but we had planned to have not a large family, but a bigger family. We built a big house, and we wanted to have children in it. And after Michael, our second, we couldn't have any more. And I was still resistant to wanting to adopt. But Carol's like, hey, maybe this is God telling us that this is what He wants, what He wants us to do. And she always wanted to. And I think God just started working on my heart. And a lot of things started work. One of the things that you have to do to become foster parents is you have to do what's that? The training that
Pride training.
Pride training. And normally it's like you have to be there every Tuesday for like 8 weeks. Well, I'm a shift worker, and they told us you can't miss. And I'm a shift worker, so on afternoons I wouldn't be able to go, and on midnights I would probably sleep through the whole class. But it just happened that right when we decided that we wanted to, if it worked, they offered the Pride training in a 1-week course, like where it was like, was it 5 hours per day?
Something like that.
But it was like the whole course was in 1 week.
Oh.
And so I was able to do it. We were able to do it together. And that's and here we are as foster parents.
Okay, so then you guys, so just for people who aren't familiar with it at all, you apply to become a foster parent, and then you take the course. You take the course first. Like, what does that process look like? I guess it's been a few years now already. Do you remember?
Carol might remember better.
I don't remember what the order was. I know that Jim called the number that you see on the signs around, and I remember you went to the information night by yourself because I was working.
Right.
And he initiated all of this despite my I don't know. I don't think I said it very often, but my infrequent comments that might be something we might want to do. And we had some really good examples of people that fostered and adopted in our church, and friends like Albert and Josie. and your sister-in-law, my sister-in-law, that did the same thing. So a lot of good examples around us as well. And so you signed us up for that Pride training. And I think it was a simultaneous process, right? We had that social worker coming to our house during that period, doing the home studies, doing all of that. And then we completed the training. We finished the home study, which was, I found it time intensive and intrusive. But we understood it and we didn't, balk at it at all. It was just something that surprised me over and over again with how in depth it got.
Right.
And then they said, I think our worker called us and said, okay, it's done. You're officially foster parents. The welcome letter's in the mail. And before the welcome letter arrived, the children arrived. So that was our story.
Okay, so let's talk about this. So first of all, I should say that when you're going through the process of painting in the butt, because you're just like, well, we're good people. But at the same time, if the government is going to place kids into a house, I like the fact that you guys felt it was invasive.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because you want that type of a good background checks and everything, because you're taking really vulnerable kids and placing them in place. So it's good. But when you're going through it, it does seem...
Yep.
And yes, it seems like a lot.
I say that because it caught me off guard. Right. And I think if you want to have a good idea of what to expect, if you're going to do that, you have to expect that that's what's they're going to want to know about your past trauma. Have people died? Have people abandoned you? Have you been through horrible things? Have you, how's your marriage? How is your, or how are your finances? What are your parenting philosophies? So what is your village like? Does your family support what you're doing? Like all those kinds of questions. And, sometimes we had to just go away and think about it for a minute before for a few days rather, before we answered those questions, because we didn't always have those answers right away.
Right. Okay, so kids showed up. So what's that like?
Well, let me tell you, 3 kids showed up, and it was very interesting because we said we don't want any children older than our youngest, and our youngest was 4. So we're like, well, that's going to be 2 max, but it wasn't. It was 3, and they were 3 brothers.
You had 5 kids under 4.
We had 5 boys. Yeah. 4 kids under 4 kids 4 and under, and Marcus was 6.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. The baby was 5 weeks old.
Yeah.
And then 18 months old, and then and the oldest was 4. Was 4.
Just like Michael. Yeah. And then so 2 or 3 workers showed up with the 3 children, and I was home alone because Jim hadn't come home from work yet. All this conversation between Jim and myself had happened over the phone from work, and the workers saw my face and wouldn't leave until Jim came home.
Well, we didn't have beds set up. We had nothing. We had just finished the training. We had just been approved, and we thought we had time. So Carol texted me at work saying, "Hey, I think there's a chance that we might get a sibling group. Don't know how many, and don't know the names or the ages." And then when I got home at 3, they were there, and there was 4 or 5 CS workers, social workers, and then the children. And it was just, it was a bit overwhelming. Yeah. And so we had sponges, so a lot of the kids slept on the floor the first night. And then I was busy the next day building bunk beds and, yeah.
Wow, that's a huge adjustment. Okay, so I remember just one of the things that we told you guys before you guys went through with this was we're like, just don't do a sibling group of 3. It's very hard. And so when you guys told us you had a sibling group of 3, I'm like, we literally gave you one instruction.
And we got it, I told you so later, didn't we?
Yes, we did. So, okay, so what is that like? It's okay. So that sibling group is no longer there anymore.
No, but we're very close and still in contact. We had them over this week, yeah.
Okay. So what has that been like for the kids? And the reason I ask that is because I think a lot of people, what they're terrified with fostering, especially if they have kids, is, well, what's this going to do to my kids?
So that's a hard question, because when you're going through it, I don't know that you can fully understand what it's doing to your children. But what we tell them and what we pray for and what we try to have open discussions on quite regularly is how much we love them, how much we love these other children, how much we have benefited from having so many people through our home and in our lives, and how much those people have needed, hopefully, the love and that we've been able to give them, and how we've just really are hoping, that parents can grow and learn to be great parents, and that sort of exchange, how we have benefited, how these children have benefited, and I think that they understand that, and I think they love it. And of course, there's they don't want to share, they don't want they want to share their toys, they don't want to do, but those things would be there whether we were fostering or not. That's not specific to fostering, right? And the sibling rivalries and stuff, but they have gained so much, and they can see some of it even at 8 and 10 there now. They see some of that. They can identify some of those things that they've gained, that our family has gained. And I think they can identify some of the things that we've been able to share as a core biological family with other children, even the ones that aren't in our home anymore, or the ones that are in our home now too.
Well, for us, ours was just backwards, right? Because the adopted kids were all older than our kids. And so one of the things that's been a little bit mind-blowing for my biological kids is, so my oldest bio kid is 11 now. And so we've talked to him about, well, this is the age that our oldest was removed from their parents. Can you imagine what? And so it's been one of those things where as they get older, they kind of they have a new respect for how difficult that was. Because it was, I don't want to understate that, and I don't want to make it sound simple. And I could tell by both of you looking at each other, it's a challenge because you love your kids and you want the best for your kids. And when you go through this process, that is one of your fears. But then on the flip side, I always think for us who are followers of Jesus, we always talk about the poor and helping the poor and caring. And I feel like this is one of the purest ways of teaching your kids that love is hard and caring for people who are struggling is hard, but it's the right thing. And so it's been neat with our kids, and I hope the same for your kids, is that as they get older, there's an appreciation to go, yeah, we may have missed out on some things, but I hope if that ever happened to any other family, some other family would step up and help. And so teaching them that, I think, has been really, really cool. If you guys are all wondering where our eyes went there was a bug that flew through here, but all of us were like, okay, so let's talk. We're going to run out of time here faster than I would have liked. As you've gone through this process now, what would you say is one of your highlights of having decided to foster?
I think, go ahead.
The one thing that comes to mind is one of our older foster children came from a non-Christian home, and would have had no Christian exposure at all. And he has, since he's been with us, he has given his life to Christ. He enjoys going to youth, and seeing that, that was a huge, and he's probably been one of our most difficult placements, but seeing that makes it all worth it. Right.
You should hear him pray. It's pretty incredible. It's different than our biological boys' prayers, that's for sure. He's seen things and been places that hopefully they will never see. But when he prays, it's something else.
I think when you, and everybody's case is different. We were talking about this before with some of the other people that we know, but love has a profound way of impacting people. And when you are missing love, and I think as foster parents, sometimes, you don't necessarily always get to be the mom and dad, because at the end they still know they have a mom and dad. But you get to play a really neat role in doing exactly like what you're saying, that you get to teach them, and you get to love them, and you get to care on them, and hoping that, your original circumstance probably was, if you're involved in the agency, it was less than ideal. We'll say that nicely. But if we can hopefully provide you with maybe a better shot at not making some of the same mistakes, and maybe generationally be a part of helping the whole family heal. And at the end of the day, kids with their own parents is always the best. If you can get that into a healthy spot, so for sure. What about, what would you say then to people who are curious, who are interested, who are like, maybe we should? What advice would you give to people who are watching who are like, maybe we should?
Well, I would say pray about it. Make sure that that's what you're called to do. And if you're called to foster, then foster. And if you're called to help foster parents, then help foster parents. Provide respite, provide meals, rides, babysitting. There are so many ways. I think, if you're thinking about James and, pure and undefiled religion, taking care of widows and orphans, then maybe you're called to maybe you're not called to foster, but you're called to support foster, I think. And so there are a lot of ways to do this, but if you have the room and the love and are willing to, be taught about trust and about relationships and about love being, how painful it can be sometimes, then I think it's just a really beautiful way of showing what God's done for us to others.
You learn a lot about yourself too.
Oh,
hey?
yeah.
Some of it's nice. Lots of it is
uncomfortable.
It challenges you, right? Like there's, anyways, that would be a whole other episode. And then finally, and I know that question, you guys probably had more to add, but I would like to ask a question. How do you keep your marriage healthy? Because it's stressful, and you guys just in your chosen profession, I mean, you do shifts. You have a fairly high stress job, and then you've added this. What are some of the things that you guys have done to keep your relationship good?
Well, we still try to go on dates. Mm-hmm. Obviously, with COVID, it's hard, but we have family that's in our bubble that live right next door to us. So we try to take some time for each other, So if I see that Carol's had a really stressful day and needs some time to herself, like I'll take the kids somewhere and so she can have go in the hot tub or do something to relax.
Yeah.
But and she does the same, and Carol does the same for me. But we just spend a lot of time together. After the kids go to bed, sometimes we go to bed late just because we can talk then. Yeah. Adult talk,
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's mainly it. We talk a lot, and Jim's really good at communicating, and I mean, I communicate a lot. So, I think part of it too is that we joined a really good small group, and they helped us keep our marriage healthy because they saw us through those first 3 months of fostering that were the hardest 3 months of our entire lives.
Right.
That it's just because of our small group and our family that we physically made it through, I think. Yeah. Right? I mean, we were all praying, but we were a little bit fogged. It just felt like a brain fog because you just didn't know how to process what had just happened to your family. And it was hard because they were all little and they were all, traumatized. And so it was our church family, God using those hands to just carry us through physically. And it's been our church family that's, supported us through all of it, all through COVID and, all through, so we're very thankful for those people, and we're thankful for each other. And we have always, we're very dissimilar, Jim and I, and we constantly remind ourselves of how good of a team that makes us. Yeah, it really does.
We complement each other really well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, the foster process is interesting because at first everybody views you as a superhero when you do it. But when the initial awesomeness wears off, it's a journey. And it's hard and it's challenging. And so thanks for some of the insights. I know that makes you guys a little vulnerable and have to be more open maybe and sit in a room with me and talk. But no, I'd really, for us, we've talked about this often, that people need to step up, and whether that is fostering, adopting, or whether it's just supporting those that have. And I think it's even bigger than that. I think the idea that it takes a village to raise a family is crucial. Yep. And so even if it's not adopted, take care of each other, especially during this. So anyways, it has been awesome. Thank you guys for your time, for willing to do this. And we will see you guys on the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you.